Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Aquel Jackson, and we have a very special guest today. Here's a guy who is probably one of the most underrated and undervalued, soon-to-be Hall of Famers in the history of the National Football League. This guy went on to set many records throughout his career. 215 is a number that stands out to me because that is the record for linebackers consecutively starting games. He's also one of 5 players to ever record over 250 career games played. Now, throughout his 16-year career, he's a Super Bowl champion, he's a 4-time Pro Bowler, and he's a 2-time All-Pro. And he was able to accomplish all of this out of John Carroll University, where he signed as an undrafted free agent in 1998 to the St. Louis Rams. And if you've been under a rock for how many years, if you don't know who this guy is, his name is London Fletcher, and he's here with me to talk about it all. London, what's going on, bro?
What's going on, man? Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, listen, man, when I appreciate you getting back to me as quick as you did, because I didn't know, I had your number. We crossed paths some number of years ago, and we had a brief conversation. I don't know if you remember. I think it was in like Houston or something like that for a Super Bowl, and we were doing something for NFL Network, but we had a brief conversation. But I appreciate you getting back to me as quick as you did. I really do.
No problem, man. No problem. A lot of respect for your game, and yeah, I remember us crossing paths. I can't remember what city was in either.
Me neither.
They started to run together, but I definitely remember us, chopping it up for a little bit.
No doubt. So before we get into, like I told you before offline, I did my research. So I thought I knew you as a player because I followed you for so many years because I tried to incorporate some of what I did based on what I saw you doing on the field. And so I know you've been asked this question a gazillion times, but I want to ask a little bit more. You were able to play, you didn't miss a game, and that's unheard of. And you've been deemed the Iron Man of Iron Man, right? So my question to you is there anything that you can point to throughout your career that you can say, you know what, because I did this, it allowed me to play as long as I did? And before you answer that question, from linebacker to linebacker, I know how important it is for us to address the huddle, to be available in games and in practice, because guys, those other 10 guys listen to your voice, whether, you know the saying, if we're all wrong, we're all right.
Right.
And that's so important. As a signal caller, that's so important. So, so was there one thing that you can point to in your preparation that allowed you to play week in and week out for so many years?
It's hard to say one thing because, as you know, playing in that game, playing in the National Football, very physically demanding, is mentally demanding, a lot of stress you put on your body. I was fortunate not to have any type of catastrophic injury where, usually guys that do everything in their power to, they train right, they eat right, they do all the things,
right,
they study, and then they get some, crazy injury. Somebody runs into their leg, falls into their leg,
right,
knee out, or things of that nature. I never had a situation where I've had guys fall into my legs and things like that, where I think part of it is, as me spraining the knee was the way I was built, as opposed to somebody else tearing the ACL or something like that.
Right.
I would say the way God made me, especially in the lower half.
Right. Because it takes an incredible amount of luck, preparation, God-given ability, and prayers out the wazoo. Because, I know how, as you mentioned, I know how taxing it is to play in the inside. And you played in an era where coaches didn't give a damn about a consecutive 2-a-days or how long they could keep you out. They wanted to run you into the ground. They wanted to see who was mentally tough and physically able to stand the grind throughout practice, and then also be asked to go out there and play on Sunday and be productive. And you did that throughout your entire career.
Absolutely. It's the way the game is played now, definitely not as physically demanding, especially in training camp. I can remember when I went to the Rams in '98, Dick Vermeil was the head coach, and we used to have real 2-a-day practices. When I talk about real 2-a-day practices, it's practices were 3.5 hour long, full pads every practice. So you go 2 times in full. So we go 2-2-1. So 2 a day, then one a day practice. But we always had full pads on. It was no, hey, you're gonna be full pads in the morning, shorts and jerseys in the afternoon. No.
Right.
And they were 3.5 hour practice. I'm talking about brutal.
See, I don't know if I would have. I mean, you have to be in a different mental space to get through it because you don't know anything differently. But like, was there any? So it's funny. I've been on those teams, and when both of our careers kind of crossed over because you played so long. So when I was drafted to the league in 2006, there was no more consecutive tour days. So it was 2-1-2, and the second practice was a glorified walkthrough.
Right.
And it was just like, oh, I can handle this. Because college was completely different. So my question to you is, was there anyone that you can remember in your 98 season that was probably like the stakes, how it goes, the NFL locker room where, man, it's like after a week, it's like, hey, man, we got to take the pads off. Did you have someone like a spokesman on your team that could go to Dick Vermeil and be like, hey, man, the guys are tired, man. We got to take the pads off. What can you do for us?
Hey, not only did we have one elder statesman in the locker room, we had about 20 because these guys, we almost had a revolt because the practices were so hard. We're getting ready to play, I think a regular season game, and guys are literally, we had a meeting, a players only meeting, guys talking about how hard the practices were. They didn't have any legs come game day, and they're trying to talk about going out. A few of them went to Coach Vermeil and was like, hey, Coach, you gotta scale it back. Right. Down. I don't have any gas in the second half of the games. Coach Vermeil was like, whatever. We go like this. He just didn't. He had that old school mentality where, in his mind, the Rams, they weren't a good football team when he took over the franchise in '97. They had been losing for a long period of time. And he felt like he needed to weed out the certain type of people, certain type of players. Now, I will say this. So 98 practices were brutal. 97, they were brutal. When I heard they were worse than 97 before I got there. 98 scaled them back a little bit. 99, we win the Super Bowl. Right. And I can tell you this. We won that 99 Super Bowl because of how we were mentally and physically tough based on what we did in 98 training camp, 97 training camp, things like that. So come that Super Bowl game against the Tennessee Titans, where we got to come up with a defensive stand. We're gassed defensively, but we were so mentally tough. Right. We knew we had what it took to make one more play to win that game.
And you mentioned the 98 season. The 99 season where you guys go 13-3, and you guys were deemed the greatest show on turf with Marshall Faulk and Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, Orlando Pace, and who am I missing? All these veteran guys. Mm-hmm. And you guys, so you're a big component, as it sounds like, you're a big component of, you got to go through your dog days and training camp. You got to really, really see who's in it and who's not, mentally and physically. And nowadays, I can tell you this, London, nowadays, it's a joke. It's a joke. Yeah. You go back, I spent 8 years in Cleveland, 3 years in Indy, and one of the craziest stories I've ever been a part of where, you have your rookie hazing, right? And I was on a veteran squad with Reggie Wayne and Adam Vinatieri and Robert Mathis, all these guys. And, it was fun. It was camaraderie. You know how it is. Mm-hmm. So we had some defensive guys. We wanted to shave the head. Do you know we had two guys actually leave training camp because they didn't want to get their hair cut. Oh, yeah. And this was guys that we thought that could possibly help us. And it was just, man, I was like, man, you know what? This is a different league, man. Like, I'm not used to that. Like, you got all this in front of you, but your hair? Like, come on, man. Like, we weren't trying to be disrespectful on that level. It was just
and the thing is that camaraderie that's built during training camp, when you go through something together, when you really have to lean on each other to make it through a practice, to get up for a practice, because those days, man, you can remember your legs are sore, your body is hurt, your body's tired. It's different now. Now coach is always telling me, the coaches that are coaching now in the NFL or whatever, they're like, you can't, man, the players are different now. You can't talk to them like you used to.
You can't talk to them the way you want to talk to them.
I don't. I mean,
you would.
Man, if I coach, I'm gonna talk to them the way they gonna need to be talked to. So, you gonna either, man up and do what you need to do, or you're not. I can't sugarcoat it with you.
Exactly, and it's a grown man sport, and fair criticism it is what it is, and you separate the weak-minded from the strong-minded. But I want to switch gears for a second, because for so many years I've watched you play, and you played with the speed and violence, and just you were like a pinball out there. And I know it has to come from a place. I know I had my things that motivated me, and my background and how I grew up, and seeing my mom and my family work check to check. And just when I saw an opportunity, I grabbed it. And I had a lot of people along the way to kind of help me see a vision bigger than my small community. You're from Cleveland, Ohio. And as I was doing my research for the program, for the show here, I realized that, you didn't come from, this, you came from a rough background. You came from a place that during that time, Cleveland was heavily infiltrated with drugs and gun violence and what have you and so forth. Can you put into words what your childhood was like? I just want to take a step back to give our listeners and viewers some context of who you are and how much you had to overcome.
As growing up in the inner city of Cleveland, like most inner cities, you're gonna have your issues, your challenges. You got your crime. Where I grew up, man, I walk out my front door, and it's it's survival of the fittest.
Right.
For the most part, I mean, a lot of around the corner for me. I mean, it's just many people didn't make it home that night. A lot of violence, a lot of drugs. So my sister, she was murdered when I was 11 years old. She was only 18. She was murdered raped, left dead, stabbed to death by some railroad tracks. She had got into the fast life, and my older brother, he was into selling drugs and doing drugs, and my mom, she had a substance abuse problem as well with drugs. So I grew up dealing with a lot of different challenges and things that really, if you aren't focused, I could have went a whole nother direction.
Right.
I used their situations as motivation for me. I didn't want to do the things my brother was doing. I wanted to bring a smile to my mom's face, because I knew, the pain and the hurt that losing a daughter, what that caused her.
Yes.
So, from the time I was like 14 years old, my mission and focus was on, making life better for her, my two younger sisters, being able to bring a smile to her face, getting her and us out of the situation that we were living in, wanted to be able to buy her a house. So it's and you can relate to this, because you mentioned it. When you're doing something for somebody else and you have a mission, and the mission is bigger than you, you're gonna do whatever you have to do to make it happen.
No doubt.
It's like, I'm not going to be stopped. Like, I can't go back. So that was my mentality. I can't fail. I don't have an option to fail. So that was my mentality. Once I got into the NFL, even before I got to the NFL, as far as in training camp, or mini camp, guys are trying to get me to slow down or not go as hard. Dude, F that.
I know about that all too well, man. It's like when you have something that's behind you, and you see all this in front of you, there's nothing that can stand in between that.
Oh yeah.
And you bring up a good point, and we have a lot of similarities, because I come from a small city in Florida where a lot of my family members dealt with drug addiction. And at the time, as a young person, you really don't fully understand it. But as you get older, you realize that's an illness. For something to take a person away from something they absolutely love, which is their family, that's an illness. That shouldn't be criminalized. Yeah. And so I say that to say this. At what point in your life there's two names that comes up to me. when it comes to when I did all my research about you and who you are as a person. Leonard Schwartz and Charlotte Kramer. You know, I knew they had a profound impact on your life. Can you talk about how they were able, because I have similar stories. There was some people in my life to help me see more than the community that I was in, experience different things. Can you talk a little bit about the impact they had on your life?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Leonard Schwartz and Charlotte Kramer. So this was a wealthy Jewish couple who adopted our sixth grade graduating class. Now, the inner city of Cleveland, it's like 72 and lower income.
These are special people to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. She, Mrs. Kramer, she grew up in a neighborhood. Now, this was back in when the neighborhood was predominantly all white. So, years later, she was a guy named Eugene Lang out of New York City, started an I Have a Dream Foundation. It was called I Have a Dream Foundation. And he promised these kids, hey, if you graduate high school, I'll pay for you to go to college.
Wow.
And through Mr. Lang starting that, Mrs. Kramer adopted that program. She brought a program to Cleveland. And she adopted our 71 kids graduating from sixth grade that year. Out of those 71 kids, I would say less than 20, probably close to 15, actually really took advantage of the opportunity because
that's impact.
Yeah, because you have so much. We had so many things that we were dealing with. Teens getting pregnant at an early age. The drug selling. A lot of my friends getting involved in selling drugs, crime, dropping out of school, whatever the things may be. But what they did for me and for us is they showed us something outside of our environment. They would take us to different.
I heard you went to an orchestra for the first time.
Orchestra. I fell asleep, but they gave me that experience. My first nice restaurant was when they took me, and I'm talking about white table. I said I wanted a char grilled steak. I didn't want a char grilled steak actually. What it looks like. And so they gave this char grilled steak out. I'm like, hey man, it's too dark. This thing. So I realized that's how it goes.
I can relate.
Yeah, so she, Mr. Schwartz was my personal mentor. I mean, they helped pay for me to go to a private high school, which was above and beyond what they were supposed to do. Help me with apartments, living situations, doing things that above and beyond what they had already committed to everybody else, but just really impactful and it's without a doubt that, by them helping me and showing me different things and really challenging me and holding me accountable when I wasn't doing the things I need to do in the classroom and, hey, not letting me run game on them. Really holding me accountable that I'm the person that I am today.
That's amazing. I can relate. I had I haven't shared this with many people, but when I was in high school, my grandparents pretty much took care of the grandkids. So I was the second oldest of 5 or 6 grandkids. And I had a best friend at the time, which was a white guy. And, and we always would hang out every weekend, and to the point where his family became really good friends with my grandparents. And my senior year, I ended up living with them my senior year of high school. They bought me a car. They, to your experience, like we went to restaurants, different experience outside of what I was ever used to. And it gave me motivation to keep pushing forward. I always made good grades, but it was just something that they gave me or showed me that just gave me the fuel to keep going.
Right. Yeah.
So I can relate to that. I appreciate that story, you sharing that. So I did realize, so I'm a huge basketball fan, right? And I know in high school, I read someplace that you actually went to St. Francis College in Pennsylvania on a basketball scholarship, and you only played, what was it, high school football 1 year, your senior year? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, man. I was a hooper. Like,
oh my goodness. I used to, I love basketball. but I was not a scholarship, high school, college guy, any of that. I played AAU all my life, hoop it up tournaments back in Florida back in the day. I used to win them all. But like you actually, you were super athletic. I watched some of your videos. They were grainy. They were a little grainy though.
Yeah. You got to think. That was back in the 90s, early 90s.
So it was amazing to see. It made sense to me when I realized, like, damn, you were a hooper before. So you transfer from St. Francis, you go to John Carroll, you're the Division III Player of the Year. And, let me go back a second. When did basketball was always a part of your something that could get you out of whatever you were doing and just, enjoy free time?
Oh yeah. No, I was a hooper. I can remember in elementary school, probably second, third, fourth grade, telling my mom I'm gonna buy her a house when I make it to the NBA.
Yo, that was me, man. I thought if you would have told me I was gonna play professional sport when I was younger, I would have said the NBA. No doubt about it. NBA.
Yeah. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, man, that was my thing, man. It's crazy because a lot of my family members, they didn't even know I played football until I was actually in the NFL. They say, hold on. They call me Bam. They're like, Bam play football? Or even people like that didn't necessarily know that I played at John Carroll because, we weren't Florida. We weren't on television.
And you played both sports, right? You played football.
I played both sports in college, but again, I went to college on a basketball scholarship initially to St. Francis. Wow. So they're thinking, hey, I'm still playing basketball. And then when I transferred to Carroll, I'm playing both sports. And, we're not on national TV. We're not on local TV, regional TV. So if you weren't like in my immediate friendships or family, you didn't even know I was playing both sports. And then next thing they know, come 98, they're watching a Rams game. They're like, hold on, London Fletcher, bad play football. Right. Yeah, man. That was my deal, man. I love basketball, and I thought I had offers to go to play Division I football out of high school. Even out.
Wasn't Bowling Green interested? Northern Illinois, those teams wanted you to play both sports. That's amazing.
Yeah, Northern Illinois. They offered me a basketball scholarship, but they had guys who one guy was playing both. So it's like, hey, if I come there, I can play both. Bowling Green recruited me in both sports, but the basketball scholarships was taken by Antonio Daniels. He ended up being a number 4 pick in the
Yeah. Okay.
We both played point guard back in the same year. So he was 6'4" point guard. I guess they saw something
right. So, and you were probably more athletic than him,
Yeah, exactly. So once the basketball scholarship wasn't on the table anymore, I wasn't interested in going to Bowling Green just to play football. So
got it.
I was dead set. My heart was set on playing Division I basketball. So and I took that basketball scholarship. I didn't play college football. I didn't play football again until what essentially was my 3rd year in college.
Wait, what? Hold on. Wait. Hold on. I'm assuming when I read this, I'm like, okay, you transferred from St. Francis to John Carroll. I'm thinking you played at least 3 years for. I don't.
So
wait.
So I played the 1 year high school football. I go to St. Francis for a year and a half.
Okay.
Transferred there in the middle of January season.
It
was essentially my sophomore year of college. Football season's over, so we're in basketball season. I don't play football until that following fall. So I played 1 year, took 2 years off, then played.
What?
Yeah, so I did end up playing 3 seasons in college football, but it was by the time I went to the NFL.
Yeah, you were 24 years old, right?
Yeah, I was. I think 23 my rookie year.
23. Okay.
Yeah, but over the course of 4 years of college, 4.5 years of college, then 1 year in high school. Over the course of 5.5 years, I'd only played 4 years of football by the time I got to the NFL. 4 seasons of football.
So to piggyback off of what you just, you have a limited amount of football experience. However, that 98 season and so forth, and throughout your 16-year career, obviously I mentioned in the intro, you made the Pro Bowl 4 times. And there's a huge, and I want to break this down for people who don't, because we understand the thing I'm about to talk about. You were an alternate 11 damn times to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Before I ask my question, so the format obviously has changed over the years, and when I was making plays, and I thought when I was becoming an alternate, it was AFC, NFC, and I was always the third linebacker behind Ray Lewis, the 2 starters.
Yeah,
the Ray Lewis was a fixture, and then whoever else like Derek Johnson and other guys would, and I was always the third guy. So I was an alternate maybe 3 seasons.
Yeah,
and it was like after the second one, you think like, okay, I know, all right, I established myself, and then I realized like, wait a minute, this is when I started realizing the business side of football. I was in Cleveland. We didn't have national televised games, and we weren't that market to be publicized like that. So how the hell did you deal with 11 seasons of just, because players from player to player, linebacker to linebacker, anytime when our careers crossed paths, if we were playing a team, an offense that you had played the previous week, like I was studying you. I was watching you, how you would play downhill and just be active like crazy. So as a player standpoint, we always you were always the top dog. How did that affect you mentally, man, to keep going after 2 or 3? It's like, God, man, like what?
No, I was pissed off, man. I was heated. I'm still heated. Like, right. Still mad about it, and you touched on it because you went to 1 Pro Bowl, and there were years where, you should have been a Pro Bowler, starter, whatever the case may be. But first and foremost, the market matters. When you're what market you're playing in, bigger cities,
no doubt,
they're going to be on more national games. It's just the way it is. Winning matters.
Yeah,
you will see the teams that are winning the most. They're going to have the most Pro Bowlers, and not all those guys are deserving to be Pro Bowlers, because it might be somebody who's on a team that's not doing as well, but has outplayed somebody else who made it because but they didn't make it because they happen to be on a team that's winning.
Right. I even started watching, and I wasn't that guy to like follow my stats like that when I played. But when I realized I wasn't making it, it made me dive into. I was like, okay, who's making it over me? And let me look at their stats and compare mine.
Don't even compare. Don't even.
I was like, what is going? And so that's when I realized, man. It's like, go ahead, you got it.
I had we played my first year in Washington, 2007. I had a great season. Can't remember the numbers I put up, but always a bunch of tackles, interception. We were I think we were top 10 defense. One of the top defenses in the league,
no doubt.
And I make alternate again. So we played Seattle in the playoffs. Now Lofa,
I know Lofa.
Lofa made the Pro Bowl over me that year, and I'm watching Lofa.
No,
he's had a good year. Well, yeah. So Lofa comes up to me after the game. He's like, "Man, London, you should have made the Pro Bowl over me." Like
man.
I'm like, man, I appreciate it, man. I know, man. Like he even realized, like, dude, I played good, but you played great. So,
but you know what, man? It's like if that were me, like I've never told this story before. So there was my second or third time I was an alternate. I reached out to Ray. I'm like, hey, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I'll do it. I was like, hey man, is there anything that I can do, any trip you want to go on that I could pay for to let me slide in that Pro Bowl? You know what I mean? And I should have done it. Yeah. I should have done it, but I was like, I don't want to look back 10, 12 years from now and say I didn't do it. So I did it. And his response was legendary. He was like, young buck, your time will come. And I was like, okay, I need to work harder. I need to work harder, because he was, regarded as one of the best to ever do it. And listen, we had a friendship, like that. So I appreciated that. But when you stack up your numbers, I went back and, now I'm a numbers guy. Like I follow it all. When you stack up your numbers compared, so there was 3 guys that I try to emulate my game off of. Ray, Derrick Brooks, and yourself for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
And when I stacked up all three of your numbers, you and Ray, some people say arguably he's the best linebacker to ever do it.
Right, yeah.
That's up for debate. But when you stack up your numbers compared to him, games played, you guys are, roughly around the same, 220 some odd games played. You look at interceptions, he's at 31, you're at 25. You look at tackles, he's over 2,000, you're over 2,000. Forced fumbles, you're at 19, he's at 9. I mean, it's so similar. And the fact that, and I don't want to rough in it, the fact that you've been eligible to be in the Hall of Fame since 2018, and yet you've been a finalist, pisses me off. I
haven't even been a final. Like, I haven't.
Right. I was like, what?
Yeah.
That is mind blowing to me.
Yeah. No. When you look at it, and you think exactly like I think, and it's probably because you've had the similar experiences where the numbers are what they say, and Ray is arguably the greatest middle linebacker to ever play the game.
Let me. Can I interject for 1 second? I'm gonna tell you why. And this is linebacker to linebacker talk. There's things that when I realized as I got older, obviously we talked about it before, market, winning, national televised games, all that matters. With Ray, to me, why people consider him the greatest to ever do it, and myself as well, I could be in that category, because he was the trifecta, right? Like he had the charisma. It was the charisma piece and the showmanship, and that a lot of us like, and he did everything on the field to kind of make it come full circle. Now, with that being said, you reward those guys, but you also reward the guys who just played the game the right way and was as productive, if not more productive, and wasn't on the national, market and so forth and so forth. You have to reward these guys. And I'm a huge component of the way you played the game. And first battle game, no doubt. I know your time will come, but I'm interested to see how has London Fletcher dealt with that over the course of the year? I feel like you're still being underappreciated.
Absolutely underappreciated, disrespected. Again, like I was touching on with Ray, Ray was phenomenal. Like you mentioned, you would study guys when you were playing, study team. I'm watching, if we're playing a team, I'm watching, see what Ray did against them. How did they attack him? How he do these things? I'm watching him, studying him. Phenomenal guy, phenomenal football player, phenomenal career.
No doubt.
Definitely deserved to be first ballot Hall of Famer, all that. Well, when you look at myself, you're not comparing me to just any other player or any other Hall of Fame. My numbers compare to what some would say.
You had a harder route. You had a harder path.
The greatest middle linebacker ever. And the fact that I haven't even gotten to the semifinalist in the Hall of Fame, and this is my
that's criminal.
I've been on the ballot 3 years, I guess. And I haven't even got past the first wave. That right there is mind-boggling, head-scratching.
Oh my goodness!
It's again, it comes down to where you play. This name recognition, all those types of things. When I got to Washington, I realized what playing in a big market does for you.
Yes.
We were on a ton of national games.
Yes.
I wasn't playing any different when I was in Washington. Than I played in Buffalo and St. Louis. It's just the fact that more people are seeing me, more people are, we got more national games. So now I'm finally starting to reap the reward, the fruits of my labor that I should have reaped well before I even got
years ago. Right.
So it's I think there needs to be a change in the way the Hall of Fame voting is done, and the voters, they have a tremendous job. It's tough because
no doubt
you're asking them to just select 5 players, 5 modern era players each year to be selected to the elected to the Hall of Fame, and then you've had tens of thousands of players who've come and played the game of football and played it at a high level, pro football, Hall of Fame level, and it's still less than 400 guys who are in the Hall of Fame. there needs to be a change. Maybe you look at the how they go about the voting. Maybe you look at maybe a baseball type way or
go back
or
and
NBA.
I feel like there should be.
Way.
If you go back and ask O linemen, your opponents who played against the top players, there needs to be a vetting process. Go talk to the players.
Well, they do that. They do that, but it's hard because they're only allowed to put in 5 modern day players at that particular time, as opposed to, hey, if regardless of how many the class may be, if you're just saying, hey, if a guy reaches 75 or 80% of the vote, we may have a class of 10 one year, we may have a class of 3 one year. But that's how you start to really get a true sense of, guys that are deserving, and you won't have this backlog because now then you have the guys that end up going to the senior selection committee. So it just needs to be a change because you look at this this last Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I'm not sure if you watched it or not, but
I did. I watched it all.
You watch Tom Flores. He had Tom Flores. They had to bring him up there in a wheelchair. Nothing against him. Nothing against him. Man, that man should have been in the Hall of Fame.
Been in the Hall of Fame.
A couple people, getting put in the Hall of Fame, posthumous. They're deceased because so many years have passed since they should have been got their flowers, so to speak. A guy like the receiver for the Eagles, his name. I can't think of his name.
Tall. Carmichael. Yes. Yeah. I thought he was in the Hall of Fame.
Wait, what? 30, 40 years, guy. From the Dallas Cowboys.
Jimmy Johnson should have been in there. Yeah,
Drew Pearson. Yeah. Drew Pearson, 40 years to get into the Hall of Fame.
He invented the Hail Mary. Yeah, right. It's not right. It's not fair at all. Let me ask you this about the Hall of Fame. Is there a point where your name goes off the ballot?
No. It's
okay.
I believe after 20 years on the ballot as a modern era player, once you've been on 20 years, then you go to the senior committee.
Got it.
And then off the senior committee, they're only taking two players from the senior committee, and I think one coach, or maybe it's one coach that they would take even in the modern era as well. So it's just once you've been on over 20 years, you'll move to a different category, the senior committee.
Got it. So that was very enlightening. I didn't know all that. That was good to hear from someone that will be in the Hall of Fame one day. So let me ask you this. So I used to have, when I started playing football when I was 7, and I played up until I retired. 2016 was my last season. I hung it up 2017. But one thing that I would do, and I read someplace that you actually would experience the same deal. So let me set it up by saying this. So every time I would step on the field, I was either nervousness or anxiety or whatever. I didn't know what it was. And every time I stepped on the field, I had to give it up. I threw up. And there was time, hey, London, I'm telling you, and when I got to college, it became such an issue. The training staff would watch me. I would have to get an IV right afterwards. Like, it was a thing. And I couldn't get over it. They would ask me, like, what can we do? I'm like, I don't know. It's just my nerves or whatever. There's been times where my rookie year, I remember, being on kickoff. I only played base defense, so being on kickoff and running down and I'm throwing up all over myself. Like, I never met anyone else that ever experienced that until I read. That was something that you experienced.
Oh yeah.
And I still don't know where it comes from, but I could tell you once I did it, it was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And to the point where guys would look at me and like, damn, did he throw up yet? Did he throw up yet? You know what I mean? They started calling me Willie Beeman when, Any Given Sunday came out. So I dealt with a ton of jokes, man. So I read that about you, which I thought was
cool, man. I think every game, man, it's just, we're just anxious to play the game. And you probably, we've been processing and thinking about this game so much.
Yeah, it matters.
Yeah, we're just anxious, man, ready to play. Not not nervous, not scared, just anxious.
Right.
Like I'm just ready to go.
So let me ask you. So when you decided to retire, and what was it, 2013? Is that what it was? 2013. What was that transition like for you? Because I've had, a guy I had on recently, Tamba Ali, played for the Kansas City Chiefs. We had the same agent or what have you. So we were close. We started that journey into the NFL at a very young age. And, him and I talked about that transition and how we know a lot of guys who had a rough time transitioning. How were you able to transition? Because I know you spent some time with CBS doing the other pregame show. Are you still currently doing that? And what was that transition like for you once you hung up the cleats?
Yeah, I am still doing the NFL pregame show for CBS Sports Network called That Other Pregame Show. We come on Sunday mornings from 8 to noon Eastern time.
Yes.
Check it out, man. We have a lot of fun. But what I did while I was still playing is I didn't know, for the majority of my career, I didn't know what I would do once I stopped playing football. I was just was like, man, I'll figure it out. I was in about year 12 when I finally was like, which is crazy that it was year 12 because most people don't get that type of career where it's like, you know what, maybe I want to try broadcasting to see if this is something I like doing. Right. So during that off season, I started doing, going to NFL Network. ESPN, worked the Super Bowl for CBS Sports Network, doing those types of things. Washington, they had an in-house TV production studio. They did in-house TV shows. So I started hosting a show for them. I started enjoying it. So every off season for about 3 or 4 off seasons, I was just working on my craft. And then once I retired, I got the job with CBS Sports Network and just went right into it. So my transition was a lot easier because I went from the playing field right into a second career. Guys that we struggle with the loss of identity because if you think about it, we've been playing, sports for our whole lives since we were, elementary school, and we have our identity as an athlete. So once we no longer have that identity, there's a void of who am I? What am I? People want to ask you all the time. As soon as you're retired, what are you doing now?
What are you doing?
Damn! I just got out the football.
I hate that, man.
6 months ago. I mean, instead of just we have to be okay with just saying, you know what? I'm just figuring it out. I'm taking my time. Just trying to figure things out. We feel like we need to have an answer to them, and we feel a sense of a loss of ourselves because we don't have that answer for them. So that's why a lot of us struggle. It's taking your time, figuring it out, processing things, because there is you're going to go through I won't call it the depression, but you're going to go through, a void. You lost something that you've loved for all your lives, and regardless of when you retire, how you go out, whether it was on your terms or on, before you're ready to play, you're still going to be something that you have to mentally deal with.
Right. I tell people all the time, I got that question nonstop my first year. And it was like, and I realized like that second year, I'm like, wait a minute. Because I went back, and when I left school my senior year, I withdrew from my classes, and I got an extra month and a half of training for the combine. But I always told myself the minute I was done, I was going to go back to Maryland. I started at University of Maryland and finished my degree. So that's what I did the first year. And the second year, I was trying to figure out what the next move was going to be, because you're right. And I realized a light bulb went off in my head. It was like, wait, I've done, for someone like us to achieve a level of greatness, and more so you can't just shut that off. When that's taken away from you, that drive and that competitiveness is still there. So I don't care how much money you've made or how secure you are and the family and the kids are situated, you need to feel some self-worth. And I would tell people, I was like, you can't just turn that off. And so I have other buddies who kind of dealt with some things that I thought from the outside was okay. But you know how it is. Once you get away from the game, you lose contact with guys. And, and that's part of the reason I wanted to start this platform, just to be able to connect with past and former players and be able to relive some of those things to give us a level of purpose and to get excited about something. And so let me ask you this. Have you dealt with any, because in my mind, like I haven't done the whole NFL rundown where they go through and do all the tests, what have you, but it's something that sticks out to me more so than anything is with all the news we've heard about CTE and what really hit me was Junior Seau back in the day. And
absolutely.
Just it became real. And that's something that stays on the forefront of my mind. And I always tell my wife, like, hey, the minute you think I'm dropping off mentally, say something to me, because I'll be the last to admit it, but I trust you because you know me. Do you think about it at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Junior Seau. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been around Junior, spent any time with him, and you've seen Junior, just the most vibrant, energetic person in the room.
Yes.
And I had the pleasure of being around him for a couple of days. We had a mutual friend who was getting married, and we spent time together during the wedding, leading up to the wedding and everything. And when Junior committed suicide, man, that right there, like you said, brought it home to where, like, man, Junior Seau, committed suicide.
He would light up a room.
Yeah, and we found out it was CTE. You're like, man, that really changes your perspective on concussions, and if it happened to him, because prior to Junior, it was guys who had already retired, who were long, maybe in their 50s, or some guy that I didn't really have a connection to, didn't know all the stuff that was going on. Guys that were in the 60s, 70s, whatever the case may be, but that definitely brought it home. I've gone through all the baseline testing. Just to get established where I am.
So speaking of baseline testing, I didn't mean to cut you off. So there was a point in my career, and I don't know how it was for you, but when I was in Cleveland, when it became when the NFL decided they were going to make an emphasis on the baseline testing, that concussions were a serious thing, and then I'm on the back nine of my career, and you realize having your bell rung, which you and I know, like, our bell's been rung over many, that's a concussion.
Yeah, I'm having multiple bell rings.
Right. Yeah. There's been many of those occasions. And I remember an older guy, I won't say his name, he was like, hey, when you take your baseline test, because there's a baseline test to show where you are from a mental standpoint. So if you are in a concussion protocol, you can, you don't try to do as well early on, you can play. So now that has changed, and I'm glad it has, because I drunk the Kool-Aid. Listen, what we do, we play a barbaric position where you cannot avoid contact, and it's a badge of honor to say, "Hey, damn it, I'm here week in and week out."
Right.
When did you realize that? Did you go back? Because for me, I went back and revisited the times that I had my bell wrong. Oh, yeah. And when you realize the information that was out, I was like, oh man. Yeah. It became more of a thing where if I saw another guy, I remember I got my bell wrong once and I was out of it. And I was with the Colts, and one of my buddies, Darius Butler, I couldn't really figure out what was going on, but I remember him screaming, get his ass out of here, man. Get DQ, go to he cared that much. Right. So it was about life after football. They was like, man, you got it. And I ended up, at the time I was pissed. I was like, man, I got some money riding on it, but I appreciate what he had done for me. And so did you feel that kind of that wave kind of change of your way of thinking and guys being
absolutely. You mentioned it. It's a barbaric sport, so to speak. And when I came in the league in '98, there wasn't any emphasis on concussions and concussion awareness. So, you get your bell rung, you keep playing, you play the next snap or whatever the case may be. You just didn't think about it.
Right.
Unless you were knocked out cold, you didn't realize.
Right.
You didn't realize that you had a concussion. When I'm talking about, you got your baseline testing while you're a player, but you also, with the whole concussion settlement and things like that, as a former player, you have to do a window for you to get your baseline assessment with them. to see where you are, just in case there are issues that happen down the road. So I've done that. Actually, just this year. Yeah, I did it this year. Just to see where I was at, and there are things that happen. You forget different things. You're just like, man, am I forgetting this just because?
Right.
I'm older
It
now,
makes it
a lot of people
right.
things, or is it because something more to that? So I'm definitely more aware of those things, and more cognizant of things where mentally, like my mental sharpness was what I was able to.
No doubt.
Lean on.
You don't play 16 years and not play the game and not figure out how to master the game above the shoulder.
Right, exactly. So now when I'm like, man, I'm searching for a word, or if I'm, not mentally where I need to be, I'm like, man, what? So, it's just, you take your assessment, and then you monitor it, and hopefully,
and you live your life.
It doesn't get worse. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I want to change gears for a second before I get you out of here, because I have what I call it my pick six. I actually random sixth grade. Pick six is a game changer play.
Right.
But before I get to that, I want to ask you this, and I couldn't let you get out of here without asking you. I want to congratulate you on making the Washington football team Ring of Honor in 2019. I know I'm 2 years late.
Oh yeah,
and also making the College Hall of Fame as well. That's big, coming from a Division III school where you won Player of the Year award and your senior year. So I had to say that. So I got my pick six. It's random questions. It's 6 questions. It's game changing questions.
I'm on the hot seat, man.
Right. So it's very easy. I try to pick questions that I normally wouldn't, come up in this organic conversation between linebacker and linebacker. So the first one, question number 1 of my pick 6. What was the first job you ever held? It could be anything.
Oh man, I held.
Can you remember that far back?
Yeah, so like a summer job.
It don't matter.
Man, the first job that I remember. Oh shit.
Because I didn't get paid for my first job.
I worked. The first job that I can remember was a summer job that we would have while I was in high school, and I worked at it was at Cleveland State University, and I worked for the someone like in the education department, and I would like papers and things like that. Man,
that's respect.
That job was awful. Yeah. It was boring. I was jealous of my friends' jobs. They had a bunch of cooler jobs, but yeah, that's the job.
Okay. All right. Question number 2. So I asked this to every guest that's on here, and the consensus is running crazy right now, the number 1 answer. So what's your favorite movie or sitcom ever to watch?
Man, movie or
show or sitcom,
I might not want to share my sitcom. You're going to disagree as a former linebacker, man.
Because I love comedy, man.
Hey,
I
used to like Sex in the City, man.
It's all good, man.
My wife, Sex in the City and Girlfriend.
Okay. Respect. I can tell you that's a first. That's a first for Athletes Unplugged and Sex in the City. I appreciate it.
Hey, check this out, though. My wife, who we're married now, but when we were dating, certain days, she knew not to call me certain times, like if my shows were off.
I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to go check it out, bro. I'm gonna have to go check it out. Like that's good. That's good. All right, so the next one, this is more because I'm a big, anyone who knows me knows if you come to my house, we're gonna have some whiskey or some wine or a cigar. We're gonna chop it up. So, and I love food, man. I love food. So my question number 3 of the pick 6, if you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
For the rest of my life, I'm a big salmon eater, so it'd be salmon.
Okay.
Salmon, broccoli. It's really.
You look like you stay in shape now. I'm
bigger than what I was.
Of course, listen. It's your right. What, you're 46 years old? Hey, man, it's all good.
If it was just one meal for the rest of my life, it'd be like salmon and broccoli and some mashed potatoes or something. Yeah.
Okay. Clean.
Now,
okay.
Hey, I like a good cigar and whiskey too. Especially if I'm on a golf course.
Hey, listen, man. Listen, if you ever in DC, I know you got all the plugs in DC. I'm here in DC, and some of my good friends are Michelin star chefs, and they love the cigar and the wine and the whiskey. So if you're ever in town, man, I know you. Yeah, hit me up, man. Hit me up, please.
Yeah.
All right. So question number 4. I just threw this on there just because. Do you have? Because you were such a Iron Man when you played the game, and it takes from linebacker to linebacker, it takes an exorbitant amount of detail to be that good. So I know you have pet peeves about anything. So that's the question. Question number 4: what do you have a pet peeve? What's your biggest pet peeve?
Lack of attention to detail.
I knew it.
Like, man, I just, I'm a stickler to the details, and especially when it came to football. Like, if you aren't where you're supposed to be, if you're not, you don't fit this block the right way, you're not in your gap, you're not at the right depth. If you're like you, man.
I
don't like it. I don't want a coach to not address it. If a coach,
So let me say this, and I'm gonna stay on track, but I'm getting off track for a little bit. That's when I knew I was on my way out of Indy, because I had a guy. He was actually the defensive coordinator here for the Washington football team, Greg Manusky, and we had a relationship where, and I loved it. If he made a bag, like this is practice, 2-minute drills or whatever the case. If I thought he was running the same traditional stuff, I'm like, hey, man, change this shit up, man.
Right,
like, what are we doing?
Right.
Andrew Luck knows what we're doing. Like, change this shit up.
Mix it up.
Like, what do you want me to call? I'm like, anything else. I was like, so he would fuss at me. I would fuss at him. But he knew I was spending the time, and he gave me extra time to meet with the DBs and the D linemen a week prior to the game, because I wanted everyone to be right. Ask the questions you don't know, because in the end, if you're playing well, it's going to help me, and if I'm playing well, it's going to help the guys on the back end.
Right.
So I can completely understand that. So question number 5. I threw this out there. I know I probably won't get an answer, but I had to do it while I have you. So when you're finally inducted into the Hall of Fame, have you thought about who your presenter would be, or do you have a short list? You don't have to answer.
I have thought about who my presenter would be. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I got about it's about 5 people that I'm that's on the list.
Coaches, players. Can I ask that?
It's 5 people, man.
Okay. I keep it close to the best.
It's as you think about it. I mean, so many people played a part in you achieving that level of success. So it's like, you want to recognize all of them, but obviously you can't. So
right. It's a huge ask. Like that takes some time.
Yeah, I definitely have thought about that person. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So last but not least, to sum up our pick 6, question number 6. So did you go to prom at all in high school?
I did. Yeah, I went to prom.
Okay. So do you remember the hottest songs out during your prom? Like, was it the Temptations? Was it the Isley Brothers?
Dude, my prom wasn't that long ago. I graduated in '93, man. I'm trying to.
I had to throw a little jab in there.
I don't remember the hottest song.
Was Jodeci?
Jodeci.
Yeah, I couldn't think. I'm like, okay, when did he go to prom?
I remember my freshman year in college, which was a couple months later, putting a mixtape together. You had to songs. I had some Jodeci on that, boy.
Okay. Bro, I had the Jodeci boots. I love Jodeci so much. And I grew up in Florida. It was no point for me to wear Jodeci, boots or whatever.
Yeah.
So, hey, London, man, I appreciate that's it. That's all I got, man. I appreciate your time. Your perspective as always, man. I could talk to you for hours and hours about the game of football, but I wanted you to get to know me and me to get to know you.
Yeah.
Hey, if you ever come to DC, man, hit me up. I'll try to do my best to stay in touch.
Sip some bourbon and
man. So what do you have a good go-to drink right now? Like when you want to just calm on the golf course.
On the golf,
not on the golf course.
On the course, I'm trying to focus on my game.
Right.
If I'm just sitting back at the house, I've been, I like the whiskey, the Macallan. I mean Scotch. I'm sorry. So I drink Scotch, bourbons.
I'm drinking some Balvenie 14 right now, some Caribbean cask.
Ooh,
and I keep my Macallan 18 on deck.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, brother. Well, again, man, you were a huge part of my, development as a linebacker in this game. I appreciate what you meant to young boys like myself to play the game the right way and conduct themselves on and off the field. Man, I could give you compliments out the wazoo. I appreciate your time, your perspective. Thanks for joining Athletes Unplugged. I really, really, really do appreciate it. You're one of the greatest linebackers that ever played the game, and I can't wait till you get that final recognition of going into the Hall. So salute to you, my brother. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah.